Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another Global Moment Gallery exhibition. My name is Etienne Mingjo from Yaoundé, Cameroon, and today I'm joined and I will be co-moderating with Gloria Ngwa from St. Paul, Minnesota. Hello, Gloria.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Gloria Gua. I am from St. Paul, Minnesota, and my parents are originally from Cameroon as well.
We are delighted to welcome you all here for Global Moments Gallery exhibition with our fellow photojournalists from Cambodia, Guyana, Malawi, Pakistan, and Suriname. We are a group of 73 journalists from 55 countries spanning 16 time zones. We were individually selected by the US Embassy in each of our respective home countries. We are participants in a special initiative called a Global Moment in Time, part of the US Department of State International Visitors Leadership Program called IVLP. The IVLP is now in its 82nd year. Our group of photojournalists is just one of the three Global Moments in Time projects. The Global Moment in Time is the first ever IVLP with programming spanning a year. We had a visual component in the fall of 2021 and still plan to have an in-person program come next October. In between our bridge program, allowing us to continue to grow and deepen our relationship with one another and a wider audience. Gloria?
On one of their bridge sessions, the group of international journalists met with our group of Minnesotan high school students in the 360 journalism program. We connected over a love for Cameroon, and we are very delighted to co-moderate this session together.
And Gloria, these Global Moments Gallery exhibitions are part of that opportunity for us to connect with each other through our work. We welcome you all. And so, Gloria, for some housekeeping rules from our bridge, we move over to our bridge builders, Brittany, who is just next door. Hello, Brittany.
Hello, thank you so much, Mainimo and Gloria. We're so excited to have you co-moderating today. And in addition to being our co-moderator for today's Global Moment Gallery, Mainimo Mengjo is a photojournalist on this program from Yaoundé, Cameroon. He is also a filmmaker, freelancer, and a teacher, as well as being a reporter for the leading English newspaper in the country, which is called The Post. He uses his positive attitude, as you'll be able to see, and his tireless energy to encourage others to work hard to succeed. He is a focused mentor. We're glad to have Gloria here too. She is our fabulous student co-moderator, a rising high school junior at Washington Technology Magnet School in St. Paul, Minnesota. She is a journalist with the 360 Journalism News Reporter Academy and has written about racial inequality, safe spaces for LGBTQ+ youth, and her experiences during COVID. Her goal as a journalist is to amplify BIPOC and other marginalized voices. Outside of journalism, she likes roller skating, writing, reading, and playing tennis. And she is an intern with the East Side Neighborhood Development Outreach, building an economically and culturally diverse community on St. Paul's East Side. So glad to have you both here. As Gloria mentioned, she and Mainimo met during a virtual event in February that was coordinated by a local partner, Global Minnesota, where our Global Moment in Time photojournalists were virtually interviewed by the Journalism 360 students. We're so glad to have them on the team. My name is Brittany Link, and along with my colleague Bonnie Beard, have the pleasure of being the bridge builders over the course of this year for this very impressive group of photojournalists. With the 4th of July kicking off this week here in the United States with parades, fireworks, and get-togethers, it really feels like life is back in full swing. Though that coronavirus continues to make its way around, thankfully, without the dire consequences it had at the beginning. Today, we will step back to those early days during the pandemic when photojournalists around the globe were covering this novel virus in harm's way without the protection and information we have at the moment. To our journalists and photojournalists, we honor your work and your sacrifice. As we start today, I will also mention that though this is a US Department of State sponsored program, the views expressed by the IVLP participants in this exhibition are their own and not necessarily those of the US government. All right, beaming back over for Welcome to My World.
Thank you so much, Brittany. For us to kickstart this presentation, let us get into Welcome to My World. And Welcome to My World this day will be presented by Socheata Hean. Socheata Hean is a freelance multimedia journalist with the Voice of America in Cambodia. She currently lives in Australia, working in her master's. She covers everything from politics to human rights, education, environment, disability, gender, health, and poverty. She's interested in new approaches in photojournalism and wants to create a more fair and equitable society using photos. Thank you so much, Hean. It's very amazing. Hean, a quick stroll into your Welcome to My World. What really inspired you to come up with that particular video?
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. So my name is Socheata from Cambodia. So the video that you all have just watched is about Cambodia circus. The name of the circus called Pha. So it's Pha, the Cambodian circus in Siem Reap province. So Siem Reap province is a province of culture and a home of 100 temples, including a very famous Angkor Wat temple. So the show that you have watched is called Same Same But Different. It is about a foreign couple who come to visit Cambodia, and then they get a very warm welcome by Cambodians, and then they quickly get along well and enjoy dancing with Cambodian people. So the uniqueness of the circus team is that they are all come from a vulnerable background. Either they are orphan or they come from a poverty family. So the circus has suffered from the country lockdown with zero international tourists. So I got a chance to watch the show when they decided to resume their performance to serve local people instead of international audience. So it was just shortly before I left Cambodia and then coming to Australia for my study. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Wow, very amazing, Gloria. You can also see us smiling because the video is very interesting. And Gloria, let us kickstart our presentation today with Aubrey Odle. Hello, Aubrey.
Hi, good morning, guys. Aubrey here.
Thank you very much. Aubrey Odle is an innovative and passionate about creating visual experiences that captures attention and remain in the heart. His exposure over the years have been vast and has prepared him to bring professionalism and reliability to his work. What inspired him to become a photographer is quite simple. He wanted to document memories that can last a lifetime.
Oh,
the floor is
hi, good morning,
yours.
guys. Hi, good morning. This photograph here is taken in a place called Border Market. And this was, I think, around 2022, where the COVID restrictions were like just lifted and so. So basically, people had a chance now to go out to the roads and to the markets and, buy the greens and the vegetables and so forth. So it was more of people having a chance to have a daily life despite of, COVID and so. Oh, this one here, vaccines took not a long time to come here in Guyana, but as soon as the vaccines came, people were rushing to get them because persons see this as life-saving, right? One, it would have caused them to not have severe symptoms and so forth for COVID, right? So people were like happy to even like get a chance to get the vaccines because it's something that they see as life saving. This is the COVID hospital, and persons do not want to go in here because most persons when they go in there, they're thinking that they're gonna die, right? But most persons who went in here too as well, they get a chance to survive and they had good care. So most persons as well too had a chance to go in there to be treated and so, and they came out after weeks and so after. But it's not a place that persons are happy of even going. This is There's a festive season called Mashamani, right? And this really have like these parades and so, but because of COVID, it was kept on a smaller scale. Like people would play like the drums and and dance and so forth and so, but it was on a more smaller scale. A patient here was being rushed to the COVID hospital because of the heart issues with like breathing and so. But I'm not too sure if the person would have survived. Plastic City. It's a part of Guyana. It's an area where persons go and squat and live. So basically, this lady here, husband, his job was lost, and after he lost his job, things was a bit rough on him and the family. So this was because of COVID, right? And then they had kids who had to go to school and so forth. But this area here is all dump and trash that people actually live. And because of COVID, like they didn't have a chance to get access to food and so forth because the husband lost his job. So families used to like, help and support and so forth. All right, so we all know most weekends like kids will go and play in the park and but these two had no hope of that because where they live is full of trash and garbage, and seeing that their father would have lost his job during this time, it was hard on them. So I think like buying a football would have probably be something that they couldn't even afford. So she is a mother of 10 children. 10 children. Her husband is the one who lost his job, and she don't work. So to be in this city we call Plastic City, why? Because of the situation there. It was hard on these folks, man. It was hard on these folks, man. And to have 10 children, the good thing about her, she managed to get vaccinated, despite of what she was going through and so forth. This one here, it's me. I was like getting a chance to travel across Guyana. Despite of COVID, I had to still be like going out and work and getting these photographs and so forth. So it was more of a workaholic time for me, man. Thank you. It was very fast.
Thank you very much, Aubrey. Thank you for your great presentation.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Aubrey. I can only imagine how impactful your pictures during COVID are. So I want to know from you, has COVID made your job easier or harder?
As a businessman, well, besides working with the Ministry of Health here, I also have like a business as well too. So it was kind of tough to get clients because people are not keeping birthdays, parties, people are not doing photo shoots and so forth. But it was on a smaller scale. So it was a bit tough for me as a businessman.
And Aubrey, before you go, just this quick one for you. What was your greatest moment while carrying out your work during this period as a photojournalist?
Well, I had COVID one time. I lost my sense of taste and smell. For me, the greatest thing was being alive, right? And still getting a chance to carry out my work as a photojournalist. So for me, it was just life, just having life.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Thanks, man.
Aubrey.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was great from you.
So our next presenter coming up next is Thoko Chikondi. She is an award-winning Malawian photojournalist and documentary photographer who is passionate about telling stories of women and children through imagery. Her work seeks to highlight their plight and suggests solutions to their problems. And her photos have been exhibited and published internationally. She is currently based in Malawi, where she works as a freelance documentary photographer and also corresponds to the Associated Press. So let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. So this first photograph was taken at Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital in Blantyre, southern Malawi. It's the biggest hospital in Malawi. As you can see, there's a healthy worker pushing an oxygen cylinder to COVID wards. It was a critical time. There was a critical shortage of oxygen. As this oxygen was going to save someone's life, another one was dying for the lack of it in another hospital. This is a COVID patient. In this ward, it was a ward where the patients were recovering well and showing a high chance at surviving coronavirus. So this is like a makeshift mortuary at the hospital. It had been very easy for the country in 2020 when we got our first case in April 2020. Life was normal. Everyone was going about their business. There was caution there and here and there, but this was 2021 in January when we got the most COVID-19, when we were so scared of COVID-19 because a lot of people were dying in days and months than the whole year. So this hospital, like they had these tents, you can see a Medicines and Sans Frontiers sign. They gave them these tents to help with bodies of dead people dying from COVID-19. So they were preparing them there before they hand them to their relatives. Most of our public spaces were open in Malawi. This woman is a market woman, as we call them here. So she's selling vegetables. She couldn't stay at home because if she can't go, she lives from hand to mouth. If she can't go to sell her vegetables, her children will not eat. So the markets were open. They were just encouraged to wear masks. In 2021, schools were closed because of the COVID scare in Malawi for almost 6 months. So a lot of people or a lot of parents were homeschooling their children. This is this lady homeschooling her children in her house. Our public spaces were open, but people were encouraged to wear masks. The woman in the market is wearing a surgical mask, which is a disposable mask. A lot of people in Malawi could not afford to buy a mask and just dispose it like that. So the cloth masks, the ones that you can wash and then use them again, were the ones that were being used the most. So this woman is a tailor. She just kind of took advantage of the demand for cloth masks. She was making these masks in the northern part of Malawi. In 2020, around March, there was hope for the country. That is a plane carrying the first doses of COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccine arriving in Malawi. And this is Malawi's president, President Lazarus Chakwera. He was the first person to get the COVID-19 vaccine shot to instill trust that the vaccine is safe, because there were so many myths about what the vaccine can do. If you are in your childbearing age and you are a woman in your childbearing age, if you take the vaccine, you will never be able to have children. If you are young, like a teenager, you will not be able to reach the age of 40. And also there were also issues of satanism, that the vaccine is like satanic in a way. So the president was getting that shot to just ensure Malawians that, look, I'm taking it, the vaccine is safe. This is at a local hospital. After the president took it, the priority for the people to receive the vaccine were the elderly and also the ones who were like had terminal ailments, like the ones with HIV and other diseases. So this is a healthy worker distributing numbers to who qualifies to take the vaccine. Lastly, this is a young musician. She's called Maggie. She was captured on a beach in the northern part of Malawi where she was practicing, trying to get back to work after the people were getting vaccinated and the country was opening up to a normal life. That's all.
Oh, thank you so much for your presentation. Your images were very compelling, they were spot on. My question I have for you is, why does your work center around women and children?
In Malawi, the way I have observed, women and children are at the most at disadvantage in so many things. Women in Malawi have to work twice as much for you to get something, to get an opportunity, to be given like a space for that opportunity to work in. And the children are the future of our country. There's so many things in our country, like a developing country, that we are hoping to achieve and that we are hoping to be. So I like to highlight children a lot because for me, they give me hope for my country that maybe one day things are going to be better.
So compelling. Wow. Yeah, I really like how you center your work around them because, yeah, they are a demographic group that are struggling, especially in a country like Malawi. So it's nice how you're amplifying them and doing the best you can to show the struggles of what they go through. I will pass on the question board to Manimo.
Yes, Gloria, thank you so much, Thoko, for your presentation. I've gone through your pictures, and one last question that I would love you to answer is just that, what were some of the challenges you faced during this period, and how did you overcome them?
First of all, a lot of people were working from home. A lot of other journalists were working from home. But as a photojournalist, you cannot stay at home. You have to go out there where the action is. So first of all, that was a risk for me, like to go in the COVID wards to take photographs, or even just to go out in different public places to make these photographs when some people have a choice or have the opportunity to stay at home and stay safe. The other challenge is that already in Malawi, being a woman photojournalist is a challenge. Like I said in the previous time, that you get beaten. I've ever been beaten so many times, and you just get disrespected. You have to explain why you think you are in a certain space and you are worthy of taking those photos. So with COVID, people were depressed and people were angry most of the times. Like, why are you photographing us? We are sick, our economies are not well. Maybe you are taking these pictures and you want to sell us while you make money or something. So it was just a challenge to say that I am trying to be an eye for this country, for the people that cannot make it to Malawi to see what is happening, and for history in the future. So that was two of my challenges.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation. We move over to our next presenter, and it is no other person than Saiyna Bashir. Hello, Saiyna.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome. Saiyna Bashir is a Pakistani photojournalist currently based in Islamabad. She works on international assignments for the New York Times, the Washington Post, National Geographic, and others. She also served as a consultant photographer to UNICEF and other international non-governmental organizations, NGOs. Saiyna's work focuses on documenting migration, gender, healthcare, and climate change. Her recent work was titled COVID-19 in Pakistan, Beyond the Headlines, supported by the National Geographic Society. Her group project, Women and Migration, was shown during exhibition in New York and Australia. The work was supported by the National Geographic Society and the Everyday Project. She works along 8 other women photographers from around the world documenting how migration impacts women. Saiyna is also an alumni of Women Photograph. The organization has built a database that includes more than 1,300 independent documentary photographers based in over 100 countries. Saiyna, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. This is a photo of a vendor in one of Karachi's busiest markets. This was the first lockdown, and people were slowly getting used to wearing face. And I asked him how the lockdown had impacted his sales. And he said that he didn't face many issues at this point because, he's selling spices and other ingredients that are important So his business remained okay, but of course there were several challenges around him. In this photo, an imam is ensuring that people who are attending the mosque are wearing their masks and they're sanitizing before entering the mosque. There was also a lot of criticism around the fact that the mosques remain open throughout the lockdown. And in many instances, the COVID numbers and the cases increased because of that as well. But mosques weren't shut down during the lockdown. They remained open in Pakistan. So this is a photo from the northern areas of Pakistan in the Himalayan region. And there is a big issue with lack of internet access. It's controlled by the state and by the government. And many of the students, because schools and universities were closed, they had to return to their hometowns. And some of these cities and villages were located in their most remotest areas of Pakistan. And students had to hike on mountains to get a better signal and sit there and do their homework. Many of them were unable to finish assignments, to take their exams, and they faced a lot of issues during the lockdown because of the lack of internet. These are jungle workers. The government hired out-of-work laborers during the COVID-19 pandemic and hired them to plant trees. The former Prime Minister of Pakistan had this vision to plant 10 billion trees. It was called the 10 billion tree tsunami project. And so they hired these out-of-work laborers, and they're working in the field very early in the morning, and they could still, make a daily wage and take that home to their families despite the lockdown. I think this is a photo, similar scene that we all had to experience wherever we would enter, whether it was a hospital or a shopping mall. The guard is checking temperature for everyone to make sure that they don't have fever or showing symptoms of COVID. This is a photo of an empty train. And so I was photographing spaces around the city that were empty because of the lockdown. And this was part of the New York Times series called The Great Empty, where a couple of us photographers were shooting around the world. And this photo was also shown during an exhibition in New York. These trains used to be filled with people. You wouldn't find space to sit down and travel. And during COVID, during the lockdown, they were completely empty. And it was really sad to see these spaces that once thrived, just seeing them completely empty. This work was supported by the National Geographic Society. This was a grant I received to work on a COVID-19 related project. This was called COVID-19 Beyond the Headlines. And this is Arif Masi, who was a daily wage worker. And he had a family of 7, and they all lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And during the lockdown, he did not have work, and he and his family would come to the park every evening to spend time with the children and just get a chance to breathe. And it was these little moments in the park that just made you realize that, everyone's struggling with COVID and it's a very stressful situation, but then you still find these moments with your family and sort of life still goes on. The government had imposed a 5 p.m. curfew, and the stores and markets had to be closed by 5 p.m. So over here, the police is going out and making sure that shopkeepers are abiding by the curfew. This is a bus in Karachi leaving for out of town during the lockdown. And you can see that a lot of people are still not comfortable wearing face masks. And this is something we struggled with in Pakistan. And I'm sure it was the case in some of the other countries as well. Just making sure that people knew the importance of wearing face masks, and to ensure that they did that was a struggle, especially at least in Pakistan.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing your work with us, Saiyna. Wow.
Thank you.
A question that comes to mind when I was looking at your presentation was what made you so passionate about the topics that you cover?
I thought the topics that I currently focus on were underreported, especially on mainstream media outlets. I felt that there was a need to create more awareness around these topics. For example, I'm currently working on a climate change related project where I will be using my images to create educational material for children and community members, because many of them in some of the remote parts of Pakistan don't know what climate change is, and they are communities who are directly impacted by it. So that's one thing I try to do with my work. I choose topics that I find that we need to highlight more, and then sort of try to create an impact.
Oh, it's very compelling.
Yeah, yes, Gloria, we have an audience who have a question for Saiyna.
Oh, okay.
Hi, this is Cindy. I was wondering, just as an amateur photographer myself, how many shots do you take of a given scene before you get the one good one?
A lot. Sometimes when you come back and you sit in the edit, you're just like, wow, I really overshot. But there's no such thing as shooting more than you need. It's always better to do that. And you have to take several shots to get that one shot that's just perfect. And a lot of times, many of the photographers would agree with me that we're not very happy with our own work. And yeah, it takes quite a few shots. Sometimes I shoot thousands of photographs from an assignment, and then you have to sort of filter through to find the best ones. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at them after you've taken them, does the good one pop out at you? I mean, can you really see a composition or an expression on the face? Like, how do you know when you've got the right one?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see so many different images, kind of like it becomes like a series, that when you see that one shot where what you were trying to achieve as a photographer, the composition is perfect, the light is great, you've got the action, you just know that that's the right one, where you don't even need to edit it that much, the lighting is perfect, and what you're trying to show in the image is very clear. So yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's also very difficult to choose between images. So there could be two images out of a series which you're just like very confused about which one to choose from, and that I find very hard because a lot of times we edit our own work, and but I try to go with, like, what I feel is the most compelling one.
Thank you.
Wow, Saiyna, thank you so much for that brilliant presentation. Just a very quick question before you leave. What were some of the ways that you took care of yourself with the stress of this COVID as a photojournalist?
So I've been covering the pandemic since the very beginning, and initially it was also the fear of unknown. We didn't know much about COVID, and there was a lot of fear around it, right? And then moving from there, so I just made sure that I wore a mask at all times. In high-risk areas such as hospitals and clinics, I double masked as well. And then I would carry a sanitizer with me, a spray that I would go back into my car every half an hour, and I would also sanitize my gear. Because I wanted to make sure that I keep myself safe, I keep the subjects around me safe. I didn't want to give it to someone else that I was photographing, and I also did not want to bring it home, to my family, because there were some elderly people in my home. So it was stressful in the beginning, but it was also surreal and an amazing and incredible moment when the vaccinations rolled out, and you saw that, finally, you felt safer.
Thank you so much. I think my Nemo was frozen first.
It seems like there's a little difficulty on his end, so I will just introduce the next presenter, Irvin Ngariman. He is a freelance photographer and photojournalist working with a daily newspaper in Suriname's capital. He has worked for DWT Publishing for over 10 years and has been the paper's sole full-time photojournalist for the last 2 years. During his travels into the interior of Suriname, he has captured photographs and raised awareness of the living conditions of the nation's indigenous maroon communities and related social issues. He's also a huge social media influencer, and he shares food and travel content with his audience. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Gloria. Sorry. This first picture, I took this picture while driving around town in Paramaribo after I was forced to stop because the many shoppers trying to cross the street with groceries. As a photojournalist, I always have my camera on the go, so I managed to get a fast shot of the situation. I remember getting a call from our news manager to cover this item while I was already on an assignment. When I finally reached there was already a large number of citizens in need of a COVID support package from the government. The security of the Minister of Social Affairs and Housing was forced to close the gate because of the huge crowds. Many people were left disappointed because they weren't able to register. I captured this picture of a boy from a distance, helping his mother carry a bag of basic goods at the public school in Paramaribo. Because of the strict COVID protocols, the police security, I wasn't able to enter the school property. Outside, there was a long line of people waiting to collect the support package, which the government was distributing to social weaker families during the pandemic. After staying home for months during the first wave of the pandemic, schools were finally starting to open with strict COVID protocols. Many parents were afraid to send their children to school. But the ones who did come was welcomed by a teacher using a digital thermometer to determine the students when they have a fever or not before they granted permission to enter the school. This is the president, the newly elected president of Suriname. After a controversial election, our country has chosen a new president after 10 years. Police officers during the annual parade at the celebration of 45th Independence Day of Suriname, participants were required to put on their face masks despite the harsh sun. I only hope they breathe properly with the thing or despite a bright sun. So this is a social media influencer, Teresa Park. She is distributing hand sanitizers and face masks to the locals at Achoni. The Ministry of Justice and Police had organized a COVID-19 awareness campaign with social media influencers in the Maroon communities. Achoni was the best place to start because it is a supply center of the Maroon village along the upper Suriname River, where many boats leave the interior of Suriname. This is the Minister of Health, Amar Ramadan. He was the first person in Suriname to be vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. The media also witnessed more than 20 frontline workers. I managed to capture this photograph during the lockdown, where two men still find the opportunity to buy lottery tickets. Non-essential businesses are not allowed to open during the lockdown, but they always find a way to still do business, which is illegal. Yes, the rainy day, police officers have taken to the streets to protest against the economic situation in our country. A photo was taken while standing on a concrete bench to get a better view. The protest, initiated by the Suriname Police Union, demanded a higher salary and better working conditions from the government. Various groups later joined forces to express their dissatisfaction of the government.
Irvin, thank you so much for your presentation, brilliant and amazing presentation from there. I just have a quick one for you. What is that story you would tell younger and rising photojournalists about your coverage during this COVID-19 pandemic?
It is a blessing to be alive in this challenging time. Capturing the difficulties of people facing this pandemic was very sad. Seeing how people suffer or had to adjust to the new normal. Life has never been the same. So that's what I would tell.
Awesome. And a question that I have is, as a young upcoming journalist like myself, are there any tips, whether in journalism, photojournalism, photography, that you'd like to give to younger kids who are looking to enter the business? What are some advice that you would say?
First, you have to have passion for photojournalism. Try to capture real emotions of people and situation. Yes, that's it.
All right.
It was so amazing to have the four presenters present what they covered during this pandemic, and I tell you that it is very inspiring. And before we close the day, we have a question for all of them.
Yeah, so let's open up the floor board to any of the other participants here in the meeting who have questions.
Let me begin by just asking the four of them, what are you most looking forward when you come to the United States for the Global Moment in Time in-person project?
I think first of all is to meeting each one of you, each one of the participants has been meeting over Zoom for almost a year now. So just meeting everyone and also having to experience everyone's work and minds and vision. And finally, being to Washington, D.C. It's going to be my first time in Washington and the other cities. I've only been to New York City and the United States. So I'm looking forward to be there.
Saiyna?
I used to be based in the US until 4.5 years ago. So it's always going to be my second home. And I love going back. And I'm very excited to meet everyone in person. And yeah, very excited.
Yes, I'm also excited to meet everyone. And I also to visit Washington, D.C. It was on one of my bucket lists, so I'm very excited.
Thank you very much. Another question, what is the situation in your country as of now, as far as the pandemic is concerned?
The cases have started increasing again in Pakistan, and most of the people who didn't get COVID in the first few waves are really getting it this time because we got rid of the mask mandate recently, and people weren't wearing masks in airports or planes or anywhere else. And that's why I think the cases have started increasing again, although we're all stayed and we have vaccines and everything. It's just that we're seeing another rise in cases in Pakistan.
Yes, Irvin.
Yes, in our country, the situation is very stable. No major COVID cases reported. No major COVID restriction in our country anymore. You only need to prove a complete vaccination or a COVID-19 recovery certificate not older than 6 months to enter our country. There's also no need for a PCR test or antigen test. So, and like 14.5% of the population is fully vaccinated. Just everything is quite normal here.
In Malawi, we're still registering positive cases of coronavirus on a daily basis, but the hospitals are not under any pressure. The people who have tested positive for coronavirus are not as sick as it was in 2020 or 2021. So I don't know, it may be the vaccines or maybe people have just grown immunity. But the cases are there, but the hospitals are not under any pressure.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. And okay,
Yeah.
Yusuf.
Yeah, my question was how you guys feel after living or after taking photos of COVID patients when you come home, when you get like fever or you get headache. How do you feel? I want to explain to us exactly how you feel, after coming from a COVID health center or coronavirus health center.
When I have worked in COVID-19 in clinics and in hospital wards where there were COVID-19 patients, I mean, we all kept our distance and we all were, wearing masks and stuff, but you knew that there was a risk that you could have contracted COVID. But I guess I had a really good support system at home. And when I would come back, I would try to relax. I would try to share my day with my husband or with my friends. And this is what I experienced. And I guess talking about it really helped me.
For me, I remember the day that I went to photograph in a COVID ward for the first time. They gave us the same PPE the doctors had on. So that felt safe. But when we were leaving the hospital, I was so surprised when they gave me like a black plastic bag. The that the clothes that you came here with, put them in this plastic bag. Don't let them in your house. Put them somewhere outside your house for 8 days. And then that's when you can get them out and wash them. That got me really scared. And I was just looking forward to a day, maybe I would start coughing, or if I have a headache, like every single day was kind of a hard one until it was like 14 days after. And then you feel like, oh, maybe I didn't catch it. There was just so much uncertainty where you are safe or you are not. So yeah, that was one of my experiences.
I agree with Thoko. I would also make sure to take my shoes off and not bring them into the house. There were just all these little things that we had to, keep in mind.
Yes, Irvin.
I wasn't allowed, or I wasn't able to capture actual COVID patient because I didn't have permission in the hospital to go to the hospital. So I didn't have an experience to capture a real COVID patient. So that's very sad.
All right, then. If that's all the questions there is, we'll wrap it up and pass it to Brittany.
Oh my goodness, what a great conversation that was. Thank you all presenters. Thank you to Socheata for her welcome to my world. We got to see the Cambodian circus. We got to travel all the way to Guyana, Malawi, Pakistan, and Suriname, and we were taken there by our wonderful co-moderators, Mainimo and Gloria. And let's hear it for Gloria, a high school junior doing such a great job. So hands together for her. Just wonderful.
Congratulations, Gloria.
Have a great rest of the week, everyone, and a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.